Hello everyone, welcome to the online lecture series on VLSI design. This module is about the power and energy of CMOS circuits. In our previous modules, we have discussed the classical CMOS inverter and we analyzed its static mode characteristics with the help of its voltage transfer curve and various regions of its operation. We also discussed the concept of switching threshold, noise margin and gain of inverter. Moreover, we also studied the dynamic behavior of inverter in terms of its propagation delay. For this purpose, first we analyzed the capacitance model of a single MOS transistor, and based on that we obtained the main parasitic capacitances of inverter which contribute towards its total propagation delay. We also solved a couple of examples taking into account the practical parameters from 0.25 micrometer technology. So in this part of our discussion, we shall focus on the performance aspects of CMOS circuits. In particular, we shall discuss the concepts of power and energy of CMOS devices. First, we shall understand their basics and mathematical relations, and then we shall analyze the main components of power dissipation in CMOS circuits. In the later part of our discussion, we shall also discuss two important parameters of digital circuits, that is the power delay and the energy delay product. So let's start. What is energy? Energy is defined as the capability of any system to do some work or produce a change in its present state. No activity of any type is possible without consumption of energy. The standard units of energy are joules or kilowatt hours. For any kind of work, for example electrical, mechanical, or whatsoever, some definite amount of energy is required, and this amount of energy is fixed whether the work is done quickly or slowly. Power is actually the rate at which this work is done or the amount of energy consumed in a given amount of time. So power is denoted by P, and it is equal to the energy consumed per unit time T. The units of power are watt or kilowatt. The power is said to be 1 watt when 1 joule of energy is consumed in 1 second. There are two types of power. The first is the average power, which is defined as the average amount of energy consumed per unit time. To understand this concept, let us assume a scenario in which we have a certain device and which consumes 1 joule of energy in first second and 5 joule of energy in second and 8 joule of energy in third second. So the total average power is equal to the average of all these energy consumptions in their respective second. So the average power is equal to the total amount of energy, which is 14 joule, divided by the total time, which is 3 seconds, and this is approximately equal to 4.6 joules per second or 4.6 watt. Instantaneous power is another quantity which is the energy consumed for a very short instance of time. So if we are using more energy per unit time, we are actually dissipating higher power. So in order to reduce the amount of power, we can either reduce the amount of energy consumed per given time frame, or we can increase the time frame for a given amount of energy dissipation. Why the instantaneous power is an important quantity in practical IC design, which consists of large number of transistors and connecting wires. Because for example, for a certain instance of time, the device temperature goes on very high for even a very short period of time due to a high instantaneous power, then the whole device is damaged. So the reliability of circuit depends upon its instantaneous power consumption. Now let's see the mathematical relations of these quantities. The instantaneous electrical power dissipated by a component at a certain time instant t is denoted by Pt, and it is equal to the product of Vt and It, where Vt is the voltage drop or potential difference across the component at that particular time instant, and It is the current flowing through it. So as power is equal to energy divided by time, the energy is the product of instantaneous power with the time, and this is equal to Vt times It times t. So from this concept of power and energy, you must understand that the energy consumption of CMOS circuit is equal to the product of its power and propagation delay. It means that if we know the maximum propagation delay of a certain circuit between its inputs and outputs, and we also know the power dissipated by that circuit, we can simply multiply both quantities to get the total energy consumed by the circuit. So in order to reduce the energy consumption of a CMOS circuit, we can either reduce the power dissipation or we can reduce the delay. But these two quantities have some kinds of conflicting relationship, because whenever we try to reduce the delay, the power consumption goes high, and if the power dissipation goes higher, it tends to increase the delay, and as a result it decreases the frequency of the circuit. So we need to find a solution which would optimize the energy rather than power itself. So in order to optimize the energy of a system, we must optimize the power and its delay individually to achieve good energy result. The power is drawn from a voltage source attached to VDD. Generally in all digital VLSI design, we assume that the highest potential is VDD, which is the supply voltage, and the lowest potential is typically the 0 volt or ground. And from the layout point of view, we have two kinds of rails. One is the VDD rail and the other one is the ground rail, and in between these two rails we have all circuit components, and the signal coming from these two rails are distributed throughout the chip to different components. And since the power supply provides a constant voltage to all the components on chip, so the instantaneous power dissipated by any component is the product of instantaneous current and the supply voltage VDD. Since power is the rate of dissipation of energy or derivative of energy with respect to time, the total energy is the integration of power in time domain from 0 to t. This is equal to integral 0 to t the instantaneous current I dt times VDD dt. It means the instantaneous power, which is the rate of energy consumption at a particular time instance, may be high or low, but the total energy is constant. Now to further understand the concepts of instantaneous power and total energy, let us consider an analogy. As you know that the energy is the ability of a system to do some work. So in this case, lifting a box requires a specific amount of energy, and this energy remains fixed no matter how quickly the box is picked up, while the power is the rate at which this energy is consumed. So lifting faster will change the amount of power, but the total amount of energy will remain the same. Let's consider another example. We have two containers. One is this mug labeled as power, and it is the mug with small amount of water being poured very quickly, and the other one is this jug holding a large amount of water being poured slowly. So from here we can see that the mug is delivering more water in a given amount of time, but the total amount of water delivered is less than this jug. So the analogy is that the mug has high instantaneous power but low energy. So the mug is delivering more power but it has low energy. While on the other hand, this jug contains more amount of water, that is, it possesses more energy, but it is releasing the water at a small rate. So it has got low instantaneous power as compared to this mug, but it possesses high energy as compared to this mug. The average power is the amount of energy consumed in a given time period, and it is equal to E by capital T. It can be obtained using this relation. Now let us understand the concept of power and energy in context of a CMOS inverter. This is a PMOS transistor and this is an NMOS transistor. Assume this power line as a source of energy, something similar to a glass with large amount of water. The total energy is the amount of water contained in this container. Voltage is the water pressure, whereas the current relates to the amount of water that can flow per second. So what we do that we give at the input side a 1 to 0 transition of a voltage signal with finite fall time. Remember, fall time is the time difference between the 90% of maximum input value, that is VDD, to the 10% of VDD. So it is the time difference between 0.9 times VDD to 0.1 times VDD. So initially when the input is 1, this PMOS transistor is switched off, whereas this NMOS transistor was switched on. So the capacitor at the load side, which is acting as another reservoir to store energy, this capacitor has been completely discharged to the ground. Now when 1 to 0 transition has taken place, the PMOS transistor is switched on in resistive mode, whereas the NMOS transistor is in cutoff mode. So the voltage from VDD line charges this load capacitor. From this discussion so far, we must understand two important things. Number one, for any CMOS circuits, the energy is drawn from the VDD source only during low to high transition of output. That is when this output capacitance is being charged from the VDD. Number two, that this energy consumption is directly proportional to the capacitive load. So for this inverter, when the input goes from 0 to 1, this transistor is switched off and this transistor is on, and now this energy stored by the load capacitor is discharged to the ground. So for all practical purposes, we only consider 0 to 1 transition of output for calculation of energy. Now the total energy drawn from the supply during 0 to 1 transition of output is equal to the integral of power, which is equal to the total current times the supply voltage VDD. And as we know that the current across the capacitor is equal to the time derivative of voltage across it, which is equal to CL times dV out by dt. Now placing the values and solving this integral, we obtained that the total energy drawn from the supply voltage during 0 to 1 output transition is CL times VDD square. The total energy stored by the capacitor at the end of this 0 to 1 output transition is equal to the integral of current times the voltage across the capacitor. And in a similar manner, placing the value of current through the capacitor, we can solve this integral and obtain the total energy stored by the capacitor at the end of this output transition is equal to CL times VDD whole square by 2. It means that for any 0 to 1 output transition, the energy drawn from supply voltage is CL VDD square. However, out of this energy, the energy stored at the capacitor is CL VDD square by 2. It means that only half of the energy supplied by the source is stored in the capacitor. The remaining half is dissipated by the PMOS transistor. And this energy dissipation is independent of the transistor size and its resistance. Similarly, during the discharge phase, this CLVDD whole square square by 2 amount of energy is dissipated to ground through the NMOS transistor, and the amount of this energy dissipation is also independent of NMOS transistor aspect ratio and its equivalent resistance. Let's talk about the total power consumption in CMOS circuits. The total power is distributed into 3 types of power consumption. Number 1, the dynamic power. Number 2, the static power. And number 3, the short circuit power. The dynamic power is the major source of power consumption in modern CMOS circuits, and this is the power dissipated due to circuit switching, that is 0 to 1 or 1 to 0 transition of output which charges or discharges the load capacitance. So in order to evaluate the dynamic power, we take into account how frequently the device switches, and this switching is measured in terms of frequency of energy consuming cycles denoted by F_0 to 1. So if a certain gate is switched on and off F0 to 1 times per second, the total dynamic power is equal to CL VDD square times the frequency of switching cycles. The quantity F, that is the frequency of switching cycle, is related to the operating frequency of digital circuit by this relation, where alpha denotes the switching activity factor, and this is the probability of occurring of energy consuming cycles out of total cycles of clock per second. And as we have discussed earlier, that the energy is consumed from the source when the load capacitance at the output is charged from 0 to VDD, and the probability of occurring of energy consuming cycles is denoted by alpha. Now to understand this relation, let us consider a certain combinatorial circuit, for example a 2 input AND gates, and we assume that its inputs come from a register and its output is also stored in the register. The maximum frequency of clock signal that can be applied to its input and output registers is equal to 1 by Tp, where Tp is the propagation delay of this AND gate. Now ideally we can apply a new set of inputs at each clock cycle, so the total number of times per second the inputs can be applied to this gate is equal to F times per second. Now it is not always possible that the output node shows a 0 to 1 transition for each set of inputs, because if you look at the truth table over here, we see that the output node only charges when both inputs are 1. So normally it happens that at the output node the energy consuming 0 to 1 transition takes place a certain percentage of total number of times the input changes. So for example, let's the clock frequency of this register is 1000 Hz. So it means an input can be applied 1000 times per second. Now let's assume that out of these inputs, only 20% of the inputs are those which produce a 0 to 1 transition at the output. So the activity factor in this case is 0.2, that is the 20%. Therefore, out of these 1000 cycles per second, the total number of energy consuming cycles are 0.2 times 1000, which are 200. So out of 1000 cycles of clock per second, energy is consumed by this gate from VDD in only 200 cycles. So the dynamic power can also be evaluated as CL times VDD square times alpha times F. The activity factor alpha is an important metric, and its computation is not straightforward for complex circuits. It can be evaluated to some extent for gates like NAND, NOR, etc., but for complete digital design it is a highly intensive task. Because it is a probability measure, the value of alpha is always between 0 and 1. Alpha is dependent on the input pattern as well as the logical operation of the circuit. For any logic gate, the activity factor alpha is equal to the probability of its output to be equal to 0 multiplied by its probability to be equal to 1. So in our discussion of CMOS combinatorial circuits, we shall again discuss this concept in detail, and we will also see some examples to compute alpha for some low complexity logics. The second component of total power consumption of CMOS circuit is the short circuit power. And as we have already discussed that under ideal scenario, the inputs applied at any CMOS circuits have transition something like this. That is, they have a zero rise and fall time. But practically it never happens. Every signal has got some finite slope during low to high or high to low transition, and due to these finite rise and fall times of input signals, for each transition there occurs a certain value of input voltage at which both the NMOS and PMOS transistors in the pull up and pull down network are simultaneously on, and as a result a high short circuit current passes through the direct path between VDD and ground. The energy consumed from the supply due to this short circuit is denoted by ESC, and it is equal to the product of time for occurring of this short circuit, the supply voltage, and the maximum value of short circuit current. And the short circuit power is equal to this energy multiplied by the frequency of switching cycle. This can also be evaluated in terms of a quantity called the effective short circuit capacitance, and it is equal to the product of effective short circuit capacitance, the square of supply voltage, and the operating frequency of the circuit. The third component is the static power, and it is the power consumed by a CMOS device when it is in static condition, that is when it is not switching at all. The static power is equal to VDD times the current under static condition. And during our discussion for CMOS inverter, we saw that under ideal static conditions the inverter has a static zero power. However, in practical cases there is always a leakage current that flows between the reversed bias source body and drain body PN junction, and this leakage current is denoted by I leak. The static power is the product of supply voltage and this leakage current. However, typical values of this leakage current are very small, of the order of few picoamperes per micrometer square of drain area at room temperature. So at room temperature conditions we can neglect the effect of this static power. However, the leakage current increases drastically at high temperatures, which makes the static power a significant quantity to be measured. Now putting it all together, the total power is equal to the sum of dynamic, short circuit and static power consumption, whereas the first two components are dependent upon the switching activity factor of the design, and the third component can be neglected at low temperatures. Now let us discuss few things about the importance of energy and peak power. The energy dissipation is related to the capacity of source or battery life in hours. So higher the energy dissipation of a circuit, lower will be its battery life in hours. And this is now an important quantity in modern digital electronics, where portability and prolongability of battery life is the prime concern. The energy dissipation also has an impact on packaging of an IC, because at the end of the day we want the energy consumed from the source to be dissipated into atmosphere in terms of heat. So in order to conduct this heat effectively to atmosphere, the material used for interconnect as well as the size of packaging also plays an important role. Peak power is another important quantity which has a great impact on the reliability of system. Normally the peak power is higher, the average power may be low. For example, let us suppose that the device may be working on 5 watt for 1 year, and suddenly due to some reason it starts consuming 50 watt power. So in this case, due to this sudden change of power, the battery drainage would be very high and the junction temperature will also start to go up, and there can be some point in time when the high instantaneous power could damage the device. Moreover, peak power also impacts the signal to noise margin. Two important performance metrics of digital circuits are power delay product and energy delay product, where power delay product is equal to the total power consumed by device multiplied by its propagation delay. And in this relation we can see that both the power and the propagation delay have got the same weight. Therefore it does not give us a precise picture about the device performance. For example, two designs, they may have the same power delay product even if the propagation delay of one design is very large as compared to the other design. For example, if the propagation delay of one design is equal to the 10 times the propagation delay of other design, and its power is, let's suppose, 1/10 of the power consumption of other design, then these two designs may have same power delay product. It means that just looking at the power delay product we cannot get a precise picture about the performance in terms of propagation delay of the design. A more practical performance metric is the energy delay product, which is defined as power delay product times the propagation delay, or the total power consumed multiplied by the propagation delay square. So in this relationship we can see that the propagation delay has got a high weight. So by decreasing the propagation delay by 1/2, we can decrease the energy delay product by 1/4. So this is a more practical measure to assess the performance and energy trade-off of practical digital circuits. So let us recap the whole thing that we have discussed in this module. There are three sources of power consumption in CMOS design. Number one is the dynamic power consumption, and it is due to the charging and discharging of load capacitor. Second is the short circuit power consumption, and this is due to a direct path between VDD and ground occurring due to finite fall and rise time of the input signal. Both the first two components are dependent upon the switching activity alpha. The third source of power consumption is due to the leakage current present between the p-n junction of source body and drain body regions. In determining the total power consumption of any device, the switching activity factor plays a very important role, and it is a probabilistic measure of output switching, which depends upon the input signal probabilities as well as the logical function of the gate. And we will see in the next module how to compute the switching activity factors of simple gate like NAND, NOR, XOR, etc. And there we will also observe that it is very difficult to compute the switching activity factor for complex design consisting of large number of gates. So this is usually evaluated by the simulation tools and it is data dependent. So this was all about the power and energy of CMOS devices. We will see you in the next video.